The crimson paint splattered across her white blouse like blood on fresh snow. It's funny. Looking back, I realized that was the moment everything in this town changed, not just for me, but for everyone who ever walked the halls of Riverside High. Because what happened next, nobody saw coming. Least of all the quarterback who thought he ran the place, or the principal who'd spent years pretending not to notice what was right in front of him. See, I want you to imagine walking into a school where football rules, where the jerseys carry more weight than the diplomas, and where the real lesson is, if your dad owns half the town, you're untouchable. But what if, one night, someone flipped the lights on, literally, and let everyone see what really crawls in the dark? Let me back up a sec. My name's Rachel Harper, and a year ago, I gave up a cushy job in San Francisco to come back to Millbrook, Colorado, chasing a dream that smelled like fresh acrylic and possibility. I thought teaching art would be about helping kids find their voice, not surviving the kind of war you read about in exposés. On my very first morning, a kid named Connor Walsh, QB1, son of a local kingpin, strolled into my classroom like he owned it, smirk and all. Made it clear that art didn't matter, not here, not compared to state championships. Fresh meat, he called me. Not even a hint of respect. Just a warning dressed up as a greeting his friends. Always close by. Laughed like it was a joke, but their eyes said something else, something colder. I'd read up on the Walsh family, but I guess nothing prepares you for standing in the crosshairs. You ever hear teenagers plotting something so cruel it makes your skin crawl? That first lunch, I was in the supply closet organizing brushes when I overheard Connor and his buddy Tyler betting how fast they could get me fired. Talk about hot for a teacher jokes, but with an edge, promising to fake complaints, maybe stage a scene, let his dad clean it up. It's wild, right? How fast you go from idealism to paranoia. I press myself to the wall, holding my breath, thinking this is how careers end here, before they even begin. My AP art class, the only real sanctuary I thought I had, was half full of kids like Madison Shun, all talent and quiet hope, and half athletes parked in the back row in Letterman jackets, like guards at the gate. I try to set the tone, talk about vulnerability, about how art isn't just pretty pictures. It's about truth. But these boys, they mocked everything. Will it help us get laid? Tyler snickered. I stood my ground, calling them out. But that kind of honesty in a room run by people who've never been challenged can feel like lighting a match in a fireworks factory. After class, Madison lingered, her voice barely a whisper. She warned me. Connor has a history. Miss Harper, last art teacher, tried to fail him. Ended up run out of town by rumors, photos, all fake, but nobody could prove it. Nobody ever can. Not when his dad owns the school board and his mom runs the PDA. It's the kind of thing that makes you realize you're not just fighting for your job, you're fighting not to disappear. Still, I stayed late that night, hanging up student work, thinking maybe I could build something good here, something lasting. But as I cleaned up, I heard footsteps. Connor, Tyler, Ethan, and two others standing in my doorway like a scene out of a bad movie. Connor picked up a palette knife, toyed with it, tried to scare me. I kept my voice even, told him respect is mutual, not inherited, and he shot back that his family built this school. That tradition matters more than anything else. It was all bluster, but under it, a warning: play along or get crushed. You know what I did that night? I started documenting everything, every incident, every threat, every accident with spilled paint, every crude note. I even put a security camera in my classroom against policy. But when you're facing a machine like the Walsh family, policy won't save you. Weeks went by. Students slowly started coming around, even some of the football players, but the threats never stopped. And then came the night it all blew up. I was prepping for a pottery lesson after school when they cornered me. Connor and his crew, locking the door behind them. Unlock that door, I said, proud. My voice didn't shake. Connor, wild-eyed, told me I'd given Madison an A for a project about toxic masculinity. He saw it as an attack on football. On him, he grabbed a can of red paint, unscrewed the lid, told me I needed a visceral lesson about respect. I started recording on my phone as I backed toward the kiln room, and before I could move, he threw the paint hard, right at me. Exploded over my shirt, my hair, my face, and then another blew this time, and the boys laughed, high-fiving each other like it was the funniest thing in the world. But what they didn't know, and here's where the twist comes, in the kiln room had a security camera, part of a grant for expensive equipment, recording everything. I wiped the paint from my eyes, looked Connor dead in the face, and told him, this is all on camera, 3 days before your big game. And now you've handed me everything I need. Panic broke out. The boys scattered, and for the first time, I saw a real fear in Connor's eyes. That night, I backed up the footage in 3 different places, sent it to a lawyer, made copies, wrote out everything that happened since my first day the next morning, still covered in bruises and dried paint. I marched into Principal Davidson's office. He tried to brush me off, call it a misunderstanding, boys being boys. But I wasn't having it. Either you handle this or I go to the police, I told him. And when he tried to threaten me, I let him know I was recording the conversation, too. Word got out fast by lunch. The whole school was buzzing, rumors flying, students whispering. Some looked at me with new respect, others with fear at the police station. Officer Mills watched my video and shook her head. This is clear as salt. But you need to know, pressing charges against a Walsh is going to make your life hell. I told her it was already hell, but at least this way I had the truth. That afternoon, I walk into my classroom to find Principal Davidson and Mitchell Walsh waiting, and here's the part you see in movies, but never think will happen to you. Mitchell slid a check across my desk. Offer me $100,000 to resign. Drop the charges, leave town, you're young. You can teach anywhere. Why ruin your life over this? I looked him dead in the eyes and said, so your son can keep doing this to someone else? He dropped the nice guy act fast, promised to destroy me, but I just stood up and told him to do his worst. By the time Friday's big game rolled around, the whole town was at the stadium, the divide between justice and tradition as wide as the field. Madison and the art club organized a protest in the stands, holding up signs, "Protect students, not predators." Half the crowd cheered, half booed, but the noise rattled Connor. He fumbled, threw interceptions, lost the game, and as the final whistle blew, chaos erupted in the stands. Some people blamed me for destroying their dreams of a championship. Others thanked me for finally standing up. But the real reckoning came at the parent showcase that night. The whole town gathered in the school's main hall, expecting to see a nice display of student work. At 8:45 sharp, I hit the lights, and the projectors flashed to life not just artwork, but texts, group chats, video of the assault, years of cover-ups, and even testimony from victims who'd been paid off. It was all there, splashed across every wall. Undeniable. Mitchell Walsh tried to shut it down, threatened lawsuits, but Officer Mills was ready, stepping in to arrest Connor and Tyler on the spot, in front of their families, their peers, the whole community. You should have seen it. The place went dead silent. Then the students started clapping, slow at first, then a wave. As people realized the spell was broken, Mitchell's threats collapsed as more victims came forward. The principal resigned, and for the first time in decades, the school board actually listened. Connor got 18 months in juvie, football career over. Tyler, to Ethan, who came forward, transferred schools but asked me for a recommendation, said he wanted to study art therapy, help kids, process trauma through creativity. Full circle, right? And me? I'm still here, teaching art, but also teaching truth, accountability, and the courage to stand up, even when it costs you everything. The pain is long gone, but the lesson remains, not just for Riverside High, but for every place where silence lets darkness thrive. So let me ask you, because I know this story isn't just mine, where do you draw the line between loyalty and justice? When does protecting tradition become enabling abuse? I want to hear your stories, your thoughts, because maybe together we can make sure the next time someone flips on the lights, the only thing people see is the truth.